Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by White House reporter Haisten Willis. Haisten, we've got special counsel mania here in Washington right now. President Biden had been pretty critical of former President Donald Trump over his handling of sensitive government documents, classified information. Now we seem to have a problem with President Biden in this area.
Yeah, this is a story that's all over Washington this week, right? You laid it out very well there. There was big news late summer, early fall last year that Trump was raided. Mar-a-Lago was raided because there was documents from his presidency that were there. Of course, that was a big deal, dominated the news cycle for a while. And President Biden weighed in on this himself. Not too heavily, but he did say some comments. He said something along the lines of, how can anyone be so irresponsible to have these documents laying out there away from the White House in an unsecured place. Turns out this week, the public is learning that Biden had a very, very similar circumstance. They found documents at what's called the Penn Biden Center. It's a think tank that Biden, I guess, runs or used to run here in Washington. And then we've learned a few days later that they found an additional set of documents at his garage, at his house over in Wilmington. So definitely a little bit of what seems to be some hypocrisy, perhaps, on the part of the White House.
Now, these are documents from the Obama administration when Biden was vice president, when he was vice president of the United States.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, these are from when he was the vice president, which is interesting in some sense because, of course, that means he was not the guy in charge. There's a little bit of maybe less intensity there, but also the president actually has the power to declassify documents, which is something that Trump has talked about. Well, I can just declassify them in his very Trumpian way. He just said, well, they're all declassified. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. But the vice president cannot do that. That also means that these documents have been out and about in a relatively unsafe situation for a longer period of time. Biden left the vice presidency in early 2017, so these documents have been sitting around for a period of about 6 years before they were discovered late last fall.
So now Biden and Trump are both being investigated by special counsels appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland. But there does seem to be some differences in terms of how the process of finding these documents was handled. I mean, there was no raid as there was in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
What's some of the reasoning people are giving behind that?
Sure. So yeah, that's something that Republicans are definitely making a big case about, that there's a double standard here, that it was a huge, big scandal what happened to Trump, and then it happens to Biden, and it's maybe less of a big deal. Most notably, as you said, there was no raid of Biden's, the Penn Center here in D.C. or Biden's house. There was no big raid, but the White House is saying, well, that's because we cooperated. They said we turned these documents over to the National Archives right away. We got this information out there. We're cooperating. So this is on the up and up. The big question, aside from that, of course, is the timing of this. The first batch of documents we're learning was found November 2nd, right before the midterms. Obviously, if that come out at that time, would have been very damaging for Biden and for Democrats more widely. Of course, the public did not know about that until earlier, just a few days ago. So there's a question. Okay, you say you're being transparent, but why didn't the public know about this at that time? Why did you wait 2 months later to let everyone else know about it?
So if that's not enough investigatory fun for the Biden administration, Republicans have control of the House now, subpoena power at the various committees, and Hunter Biden is looming pretty large as a target for some of those investigations.
Yeah, definitely. Hunter Biden has, of course, been a target, I think, for a long time for Republicans who are concerned about not just what Hunter Biden has done, but the potential that he was working with his dad in some capacity. He did get paid large amounts of money from foreign entities and businesses, so was some of that money going to Joe, et cetera, et cetera. But so the Republicans to the big guy. I think it's 10 for the big guy.
10% for the big guy.
What does that mean, right? So Republicans have been talking about this for a long time. Basically, just now they have the House majority, so they have subpoena power. They've taken over the relevant committees that can look into this kind of thing. And of course, there was kind of a week delay for the whole Speaker saga. So that's over now. They can focus on doing this. Hunter Biden is already being investigated by the Department of Justice, but again, that's an executive branch agency. So there's accusations there that maybe they're slow walking it or whatever. The Republicans, though, leading these House committees, can now go full bore after Hunter and figure out what's going on there.
And the Justice Department has left in place a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney to spearhead the Hunter Biden investigation. But yes, the Justice Department does report ultimately to the president.
The accusations are there.
The accusations are definitely there.
Yeah.
And then there have been other investigations that have been talked about. The Biden administration now because Republicans are in control of Congress, and also some other elected officials in their own party wanting to see some changes, are facing new scrutiny over COVID-19.
Yes, you're talking about the work from home stuff with that, I guess? Or?
Well, so certainly Republicans are going to investigate various things about the pandemic response, and then you have a broader range of people who would like to see the federal workforce go back to work, having
So the House Oversight Committee,
or at least not working from home. They're working from home now. Working from the office.
What's at work and what's not? Right. So they've announced new rules for the House Oversight Committee, under which they're going to investigate basically almost every aspect of the COVID pandemic. Theoretically, they're talking about investigating the origins, but also the government response. Initially, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, all of that kind of stuff, shutting things down, school closures, and then continuing on today. The Biden administration has just extended the official emergency over COVID for another 90 days. And another thing they're looking at is that the federal workforce is mostly still working remotely, at least a little bit. Before the pandemic, very few federal workers worked from home. It was only about 3%. We're still at just about close to 50% are still working remotely now. So Representative James Comer, who's a pretty big name over there now, he leads the House Oversight Committee, dropped a bill. There was an acronym, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was called the Show Up Act. Okay,
right.
So it's kind of a messaging bill. It's not going to be able to pass in a Democratic-controlled Senate and everything, but the idea is to bring some accountability to this, to, in theory, try to either bring the federal workforce back or come up with some sort of more drawn out, thought out way for them to work remotely, rather than just, we send them home for the pandemic and the wheels haven't fallen off, so we're just going to kind of keep this going.
Right. Yeah, right. Like a lot of private sector companies obviously found that work from home to some degree worked for them, but there's obviously one reason why government, they've always been more reluctant to have people work from home. Don't want classified documents in anybody's garage.
Yeah, it all comes full circle, I guess. And a lot of private companies are actually kind of pulling back a little bit on this work from home thing. That was big. That was all the rage for a while. Kind of aside from the health thing, this is more beneficial and that kind of thing. But a lot of companies are coming back from that. Disney, the CEO of Disney, has told his people they have to come back. The parent company of Snapchat, was actually very much a tech company. They're bringing their employees back to the office. I think it's 4 days a week. So it's certainly not just the government. The government is actually now kind of a laggard on the other side to an extent, with people still out. And Republicans at least want some answers on that. How long are we going to do this? Why are we doing this? Et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you, Haisten. You can read Haisten and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.